you haven't been idle, you've written a book.
Yes, my third one, actually. It's called The Night Book, and it's set in the hot, hot summer of 1976.
Oh, I remember that.
You remember that? It was amazing.
That's what I blame on failing most of my GCSEs, or O-levels, as you called them then. I was out sunbathing.
It was incredible. It started around the end of May, and it just went on and on and on. And it wasn't
the
just...
smell of the melting tarmac, I can remember.
That's in the book, actually. Not the smell, but the description. And I was 19, and I went to BBC Radio Carlisle in Cumbria. I was on newspapers in London, and I went up to the lakes. And for that summer, it was like being in the Italian lakes. I mean, the Windermere was like Como. And I was thinking back to that time, and I was trying to think of the plot for this next book, and I thought, OK, we've got great weather, you can write about that. You've got the lakes looking wonderful, I can write about that. Ah, yes. The surface of the lakes was heating up in this endless sunshine, and it was deceptively warm. And people were going in, because normally the lakes is freezing, and they were swimming in this warm, superheated layer, and then they'd go down a bit for a little dive, and just beneath them it was still freezing, and they were dying. They were inhaling and shock and drowning and having heart attacks. So on the local radio station, we were putting out warnings every hour saying, please don't swim in the lakes. I thought, OK, you've got that there. And then I inserted my main character, Muriel. She's a beautiful broadcaster. She's about 30, 31, burgeoning career.
Base her on me, Richard.
And she's married to an SH1T. He's a real emotional abuser, much older than her, very rich. She married in haste, for pence at leisure. And she's an agony aunt, and she can't tell her listeners that she's trapped in this awful marriage. And she has this thing called The Night Book. It's her secret diary. And when he's been really horrible to her, to his wife, she waits for him to go to bed and go to sleep, and they sleep in separate rooms now. They have done for years. And she goes downstairs and she writes a fantasy chapter of how she'd like to kill him. But it's... I have to warn you, if you read the book... Well, that's what I thought. If you read the book, it's full on, because... And anyway, because of all these drownings, all I'll say is this: an opportunity, a once-in-a-moment opportunity allows her to avail herself of getting rid of him forever. And she does. And then it's a case of how she lives with that and what we think of her for that. And will that catch up with her? Will it overtake her? Will she be punished? Because I was thinking... So
have you been looking nervously over your shoulder at Judy?
Oh, I always look nervously over my shoulder at Judy.
Hover at the top of the stairs.
Does she proofread? Would you let her proofread?
Oh, we alternate writing novels. She writes one year, I write the next year, so we don't clash.
Very organised.
And we read each other's pages all the time.
And will you take if she says that's rubbish?
Absolutely, yeah. If she says that isn't working, or I don't like that name or something, I'll take it on board, and vice versa. But I just wanted to say very quickly about women, here in the audience and watching, maybe not here, it's too small a sample.
Oh, I don't know.
There will be women watching this programme, I'm convinced of it, it's part of the whole thesis of the book, who are married to horrible, horrible, controlling, bullying husbands, and one day they're having lunch and the husband starts to choke, properly choke, and they don't do anything. They leave the room. There's a man mowing the lawn, and the wife who's bullied is looking at him, clutches his chest, he hits the lawn, and she goes and makes a cup of tea.
I think so.
I think that happens.
I've got one
Let us know if you've done that. You remain anonymous.
But if you
no name.
But is it a crime? Do you think that's a crime?
No. No, I think being awful.
No, hang on, if you think about it, because leaving the scene of an accident without helping is a crime. So...
Well, of course...
Yeah, but nobody would have to know. I was just simply turning around to make a cup of tea, and it happened.
I didn't see it. I didn't see it.
Well, you see, what Muriel does, and she doesn't just let it happen, she engineers it instantly. What she does, there's no one to see. It's just her and him out on the water.
Nobody sees it. Who's to know, then?
Well, it's not that simple.